What you need to know about what's going on. If you guys don't already know about the savage Chinese protests going on right now, there are some other very worrisome things that you may not know. Furthermore, an upcoming issue with Made in China. 3 attacks are currently happening on everything that gets made in China. In fact, if there was no more Made in China, a country like ours would be in chaos. Because as sad as it is, our country has become reliant on other countries for everything that we need, and most of that's from China. As much as I don't like saying it, our country is not ready for no more Made in China. We all of a sudden had no more Made in China, our shelves would go empty almost the next day, and those shelves would not get restocked. There'd be crazy panic buying. It would be absolute widespread hysteria. And what the heck are they doing? Actively building and almost completing containment camps like this. They're actively working on them, and in fact, they're almost done with one that could house over 100,000 people. What you need to know, coming right up. Welcome back to all of our subscribers, and thanks for watching our videos. If you're brand new here, like news that affects you, prepping tips, emergency preparedness how-tos weekly, be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss one. Let's jump into this one. All right, guys, let's get going in the studio without heat. For those of you guys that are not up to date on what's going on in China, let's give you a real quick visual.
Tonight, the most widespread Chinese protests in years. At least 10 cities, including Shanghai, have now spread to Hong Kong. And the unrest is now affecting global markets. Shares of Apple fell nearly 3%.
While NASDAQ and the S&P 500 both fell more than 1.5%. Apple shares dropped following reports that production at the world's largest iPhone factory has been impacted by the unrest.
Furious, some people yelled what, until now, few would have even dared say aloud.
Xi Jinping!
Down with Xi Jinping. Down with the Communist Party.
Crazy, right? Real quick, thanks to Neil. He did a video kind of on this. We're going to expand a little bit. Just wanted to make sure that we get this information out to our community. What we're seeing here with China is this country is getting fed up. It's been building up, and this is finally their outlet. Chinese citizens are finally reaching their breaking point. That really unfolded this week when an apartment block, not an apartment building, an apartment block. If you know about China, they've got entire apartment blocks that are connected. It burnt down with people inside. And as horrible as that is, it gets worse. The reason that people could not get out is because the doors were welded shut. Why? Well, the message given is because they were trying to save lives for the good of the people. Now, that's all that I'm going to say on that for reasons I'm sure you can guess. But for some of you, now you know, and you guys can look it up. It's all over the web. Aside from that, China is building what they're calling containment pods. They're constructing it right now. As a matter of fact, it's huge. So huge, it will house 87,000 pods. That's right, I'm guessing it's going to house a lot more than 100,000 people. In fact, they're almost done with this construction. Now, in the last couple years, you guys have probably seen on the news similar pods, similar huge sites, big camps being built. In fact, they've been built all over the world over the last couple years. But here's the thing. You don't hear about them anymore, right? When's the last time that you heard about these big camps? With that, many people have been under the assumption, thinking that these things have been taken down, disbanded. They have not. They are still there, being maintained by a low-key staff, kind of like a skeleton staff. So why were these things built? Well, they said in case that they needed to isolate people. But if you read through the policies and the guidelines, they remain ready for the next pandemic. And that's what we learned just last week with the new health pass. If you haven't heard about that, it's being created under the United Nations, the G20. Many countries are signing up for this. But don't worry, this is being created for your benefit. So if you don't already know what happens with this health pass, what happens is if you haven't had certain inoculations, and if you're not up to date on, well, whatever they decide they want to govern, no good. That's right. If you're not up to date on what you need to be up to date, your pass will go to red. It'll be like a traffic light system, red, amber, and green. And if you happen to get a red, you simply won't be able to travel. You won't be able to go anywhere. I bring this up because this is what's going on in China. People have traveled across the country and they've gotten to these checkpoints before where they need to go, and they get scanned. Their travel pass, their digital ID, their face ID, their posture ID, their digital ID. When scanned, they got a red and they said, you are not fit for travel. Something you guys need to stay educated on. And back to those pods. Did you know allegedly 2 million Chinese people are currently in these imprisonments, these camps currently? We don't hear anything about that, do we? Anyone trying to get them out? It's kind of scary. And I mean, an entire block went up into flames. An apartment block, 47 stories high. Doors welded shut for safety reasons. This, along with all of the mandates, the zero policy, has added to the fire in these people, the frustration, which has finally shifted the obedient Chinese into what they actually think of their government. Now remember, these are reports from other countries. China, the validity is always in question, but the reports are everywhere out there. Another thing that the Chinese are not liking is that they're the only country out there that are in hazmat suits, 100% lockdown, while the rest of the world are going to championship games unmasked. So number one, you've got a country that wants the end of their current leader, Xi Jinping, and this country is currently falling apart within. The Chinese citizens are in uproar. They're tired of being beaten, their phones broken, extremely censored, controlled, insane restrictions and lockdowns, having all of their money taken away, militarily blocked from getting money from any banks, and much worse that I can't put on here. The fact of the matter is, China is imploding. 1.5 billion people almost. A country that supplies the US for billions and billions and billions and billions of supplies. Like I said, we are not set up to provide ourselves. It will take years to build. And on top of that, we would need a current administration that would want to be self-sufficient for that to happen. So that's just the first reason that we may not see made in China anymore. The fact that their own country is imploding at the moment. Another huge eruption that's happening currently is the rest of the world is taking a stand alongside the Chinese people, protesting against China, against Made in China, a global support to get the attention of the Chinese government. How far will that go? Don't buy from China. In fact, Twitter has become a huge platform and stage for the China protest. And here's the third reason. Did you know China, a very tiny little percent, has been affected with the thing? So the question is, what happens when China finally gets a widespread sickness? Because they have been the most masked, the most protected. Some might say the immunities have not been built up like they should have been, making them more susceptible. And with these protests and numerous people running around unmasked, it doesn't matter what you get. It doesn't matter what kind of sickness you get. All it takes is a little sniffle and they're probably throwing you in a camp, meaning widespread craziness in China. No one will be going to work. Everything's going to get shut down. Another reason we won't see Made in China. Like I said, 3 major reasons why we might not be seeing Made in China very soon. And as I said before, the result is going to be catastrophic for especially United States. We're going to see empty shelves. We're going to see panic buying. We won't get restocked because I would say like 90% of our stuff on the shelves practically comes from China. And when people realize that shelves aren't going to get restocked, crazy panic buying, hysteria. The shelves will go bare and we will not see them get restocked. Then we got the whole train thing and the diesel thing going on. A lot of things stacking up the deck against us right now. More reason to be prepared. Emergency preparedness. It doesn't even have to be a prepper thing. You need to be ready for an emergency. You need to be prepared so that when crisis hits, you're okay for at least a little while they try to get things figured out, if they do. Be sure to share this video and like it if you found it informative. If you want to know more about this big heater that heats 1,000 square feet, I'll leave a video up in the corner of the screen. Also, YouTube thinks you might want to watch this video next. Keep prepping, keep learning, keep doing, guys. We'll see you on the next one.